As many people have said, I'd rather be 7 years early than one day too late. So if now is the time for people to prepare that one morning they may wake up and find that their dollars are no more, that yet life goes on, and if it's going to go on, how does silver play a role in the options that people have open to them at that time?
So I look at there's been one important advancement that I think got us past the kind of club, sword, and gun brutalization, slavery, taking over of a nation that has allowed individuals to prepare or to individually protect themselves, and I think that it's the modern rifle. I think the rifle is the ultimate form of freedom. It's just a fact that slaves are never allowed to own guns and free men do. So I think at the most brutal, fundamental level, physically being able to defend yourself is by far the most important thing, especially in a chaotic collapse scenario. And the other aspect that I think forced these psychopathic elitists to move away from, forcibly defeating enemies and stuff like that, and have found more profitable enslavement in this debt-based monetary creation, was their banks' effort to get rid of, any other form of money than debt-based monetary currency, which is what the Federal Reserve note is, and the yen and the yuan and the euro and all these other currencies out there. There's fundamentally no different. They talk about the dollar being strong or weak. They're all garbage. They're all based off of an illusion because there's nothing backing it. But what they had done is slowly over time removed real money from the system. And they've done it in many different ways and many different times over the period. We could think about the crime of 1873, where history has shown that the Rothschilds paid Ernest Sayed, hundreds of thousands of dollars to bribe Congress to change the laws that would essentially demonetize silver from the United States. And in 1873, we essentially cut out over half of the monetary supply out there, and really caused the worst depression. Everybody thinks of the Great Depression, but really the depression after the crime of 1873 was far more impactful than that. And it's because all the debts then had to be paid back in gold coin, who has all the gold out there? The most famous, rich people and bankers, they're the ones that have the gold. That's why they want a gold standard so much, because they own all of it. And they would only drive the price up even more. But after time of just being on a gold standard, that wasn't good enough for these bankers, and then they pushed forward with the 1913 foundation of the Federal Reserve, which then over time had them take out even the silver in our change in 1964 after Kennedy was assassinated, to the point now where the whole world is on some sort of debt-based fiat currency. So I think if that's the progression that they took, the reversion is what happens, because nothing in nature goes one way. There's always a balance. There's always gravity. There's always karma. There's always something that brings us back. And I think that since they have attacked silver far more for far longer on a greater scale, I mean, you have to remember, this isn't just the United States that they did this to. India and China were also on a silver standard currency. The British fought 2 opium wars simply because the British were out of silver because of all the trade that they did with China. And China really didn't want any of the British goods back for all the silk and tea and all the other stuff that they had sent. So the British actually had to import drugs into China. And then when the Chinese government said no to drugs, not once but twice, multiple nations invaded China and took over all their ports. That's the birth of Hong Kong. The birth of HSBC was founded off of laundering drug money, and even to this day, they're still doing billions of dollars worth of drug trade, and recently got fined over $1 billion for still laundering drugs. So I think that if they attacked silver before they attacked anything else, and I think that the suppression in silver has been far more dramatic, that we've burned through the stockpile because the pricing mechanism that the bankers have been in control of, this debt-based fiat currency and all these future markets and the regulations and the government actions and stuff, have artificially suppressed the price of silver to the point where we have treated it like it's tin, like it's aluminum foil. Like, it's not precious. And by all standards, silver is only nine times more plentiful than gold. So at any level, that's what it comes out of the ground at. And the ironic thing is that we've burned through all the human stockpiles of silver that have ever been mined, to the point now where there's only believed to be 1 billion ounces of silver above ground. And that to me is an astonishing fact, because I've seen reports that there's an estimated 6 to 7 billion ounces of physical gold above ground. And that says to me that silver is far more precious now than ever and throughout history. The amount of money that is, the artificial money that has been created on a global scale now, and this isn't just, the United States and Britain in the end of 1980, which were the big Western powers. This now includes former Soviet nations like Eastern Europe, like the Soviet Union. India and China have resurged tremendously since the 80s, when they were barely made up 5% of the economy, global GDP. This is a global effort, and this is, to me, a human effort, that when humanity wakes up to the collapse of this debt-based fiat system that is spread and infected all the world, and it's not even the currencies, it's the real estate market, the stock market, the bond market, the quadrillion-dollar derivative market. Every single other asset out there is a paper counterparty risk based off of some notion that we can continue to print money forever and be able to continue this paradigm ad infinitum in the face of declining demographics, like the baby boomers getting older and no longer spending what they did, or even earning, or even having a job, or a house after the housing bubble and stocks after the stock bubble. So I think all of this is going to end, and the force towards centralization of power is going to fracture into hundreds of millions of pieces, and that it's going to be left to individuals. The power is going to devolve not towards Washington, D.C., New York, and, the Bilderbergers, or the World Gold Council, all these centralized power structures that have been set up, the UN or whatever. Power is going to devolve down to the most local and responsive level. And that means it could be a local village, it could be a local drug dealer, or it could be just, the man of the house. That's where power is going to devolve down to. And I think humanity is going to suffer tremendously, because we're so reliant upon this constant influx of money, food, and energy into the system, that once the monetary system collapses, how do you get past 3 days of food and fuel in the system? How do you get past 50 million Americans on some sort of government food program? How do you get past oil being transported from the Middle East to the United States, or even pumped out of our own grounds when people don't show up to work? How does law and order continue when police officers lose their pensions, don't get a paycheck, and then they're forced to go out into the streets where people are rightfully angry about everything being lost? It's going to be chaos on all levels.